Welcome to the Kingdom Man podcast, where we discuss some of the hard topics facing men with a Christian perspective. I'm your host, James Russell. And if you've been one of our long-term listeners, which is not incredibly that long-term, but if you've been around and you're one of our close followers, I appreciate you guys reaching out and checking on me and seeing, hey, why haven't we heard a podcast in a while? It really does make me feel pretty good that there are some people who are out there who are listening and connecting and wanting more of what we have to offer. So here I am, back at it. Now, one of the things that have kept me away for so long has been work. My job is such that it ebbs and flows depending on what's going on in the environment around us. So sometimes there's a lot of work to be done, and sometimes there's not so much work to be done. And last year was one of those years where there was not so much work to be done. So I was able to produce a little bit more, be able to be home, do paperwork, and do those kind of things, and do a podcast. This year has been a little bit busier until recently. So I've had a little bit more time here getting caught up on some house chores, getting some things done. Purchasing new vehicles, getting a camper, these kind of things, making my life feel a little bit better, and making my wife feel a little bit better. These things have been occupying my time. Now, if you've caught up with us on all these podcasts, you also know that I've started jiu-jitsu this year. And obviously this is something that's on my brain a lot because I'm having to use my brain a lot in order to learn how to do jiu-jitsu. It is a great exercise, which is really my primary reason for starting jiu-jitsu. I wanted to be more, I'd say healthy, but I want to be more active. The reason I don't say healthy is because I'm still working on my food decisions. So I'm amping up my exercise, and I'm trying to watch what I'm taking, intake as far as food goes, but that's always a rough one, especially for me. I don't know about you. It might be snacks for you. It might be popcorn. I don't know what your vice is, but for me, it's sugary drinks. It gets me every time. I know I may have mentioned that before, but man, those things really sink their teeth into me, and it's hard to break the hold of sugary drinks. Now, one of the things that I have done, and I don't know whether or not you are aware of Jocko. He was is an ex-Navy SEAL. He does all kind of jiu-jitsu things. Of course, that's one of the reasons I started jiu-jitsu is his influence. But he also has a clothing company where they build boots. They make pants, shirts, gis for jiu-jitsu, all that in America. So I would definitely want to support them at Origin USA. But he also has his own supplement company. So one of the things that he has are these energy drinks that are actually healthy for you. So it doesn't have any additional sugars, any additional natural flavors, those kind of things. It's B vitamins that give you the boost. It's good energy. And I've never been one to drink energy drinks. This is not something that I normally do. And look at me here going on an advertisement for something that doesn't. But seriously, listen, hear me out. I'm not getting paid by Origin yet. I might someday. Who knows? Or Jocko drinks or anything. I'm not getting paid by any of those people. But I'm just giving you a testimonial. When I drink Jocko Go, in my particular flavor, they've got several flavors. I like the Mango Mayhem. That's really good. I don't know what the deal is. I'm digging mango here recently. So it does have I wouldn't say like an energy spike. I get a slow roll into sustained energy. It gives me a good amount of energy for a period of 4 to 5 hours. So it's good. But one of the things I've noticed most is the clarity of thought. Now, I wouldn't think this would be the case. And for most energy drinks, you get that like jittery feeling and you can't really sit still. One of the things I've noticed most about the Go from Jocko's Jocko Fuel or I forget the company for his drinks, is that I have clarity of thought. I can sit down, I can think, I can process. I don't immediately feel like I need to jump to something else. And I don't know if that's like a guy thing or an ADHD thing. I don't have any diagnosis like that. But it's sometimes really difficult for me to sit down and be able to focus. And one of the things I've really noticed is in my Bible study time. I don't get nearly as distracted. And in fact, I really get tuned in more after drinking some Jocko Go Mango Mayhem. I really be able to focus and dig in further. Whereas before, I'd be so distracted, I'd try to find something else to occupy my mind. I'm thinking very lightly, and then I get tired by those thoughts, and my mind wants to move on. I don't get that when I'm drinking Jocko Go. So this may be beneficial for you. I hope that it is. It's worth checking out. 0 sugar. They use monk fruit as a sweetener. Some people don't like it. It's got a little bit of an aftertaste. At first, I didn't care for it as much, but I've really grown to really, really like that product. It's helped me in so many ways. Now, back to my jiu-jitsu. So I use that as well because my mind is having to take so much information as a total newbie. I come in there, I have got no wrestling. I've got no real education in martial arts except for when I was a kid. I took some Taekwondo, which has no application in jiu-jitsu whatsoever. So I don't know any takedowns. I don't know any submissions. And I'm able to process a little bit better. I'm going to tell you, I'm usually the old guy in the room, which is embarrassing when you get choked out by, a 14-year-old kid. I've got no ego. I know that I stink, and I know that I want to get better. So I have to be able to get past my ego in order to learn and grow. And I have learned and I have grown, and I've really appreciated this journey. I've had my wife ask me so many times, why are you doing this to yourself? Because I come back and I'm just crushed. The warm-ups alone, some of these kids are running around and they're barely sweating. I'm just totally drenched. I'm out of shape. I'm overweight. I'm trying to be a better person. So yes, it hurts. And especially being on the upper side of my 30s, my joints don't feel as good as probably those teenagers. It takes my back a little bit longer to get. Occasionally, I'm going to have to take some medication in order to numb the pain a little bit just so I can go to work the next day. These are the kind of things I'm facing, but I'm learning. All that to say that after a period of, I started in February. We're now at the end of July. So a period of 6 months, I was able to get my first stripe on my white belt. That doesn't sound like much. And I've been told that at other classes and other gyms where they teach jiu-jitsu, basically all you have to do in order to get a stripe is show up for 30 classes or something along those lines. Just show up. You don't have to show any competency. You just have to show up. Whether or not you actually learn the process has nothing to do with it. That is not the way it works at my jiu-jitsu gym. You do have to show up, for sure. But we're not counting days. It's not, hey, congratulations, you've reached 30 days or 30 classes. It's not like that. I need to show that I have some competency. I need to show that I'm developing and getting better to the place that warrants the promotion. And I say promotion, but it's not really promotion. What a promotion really is when you switch belts. So this is just like a classification. But I've got my first stripe. I feel proud about that. And kind of embarrassed at the same time. Like, man, it took me that long to get one stripe. But I have to keep putting that out of my mind. It's not about the belt that I'm wearing. It's not about what's on the belt that I'm wearing. It's about me challenging myself and becoming a better me each and every day. And when it comes to jiu-jitsu, it's humbling myself and being humbled each and every class. Allowing myself to engage, because one of the things that I first started is I don't want to get submitted. I don't want to get submitted. I don't want to get submitted. And what happens is I'm not really engaging in the process anymore. I'm just trying to get out of it. Some people say it's anti-jiu-jitsu. Well, what's the point in being anti-jiu-jitsu if I'm paying classes to learn jiu-jitsu? So I have to learn to put myself out there and risk, getting an armbar or risk opening up my neck for a choke just in order to learn something. Okay, so if I put my arm here, this will make it easier for someone to get an armbar or, something along those lines. So at the first couple classes, I was all anti-jiu-jitsu. I'm not going to risk anything. And as a result, I didn't really learn anything. I worked really hard and learned very little. So some of the times that you're going to learn the most is not by being the safest. I could take the safe road. I can take the anti-jiu-jitsu road and just not engage. And I'll be safe. I can avoid being tapped out. But am I really learning anything? I've learned so much more from my failures than from my anti-jiu-jitsu, my just trying to save my own neck, sometimes literally. And if you can't see the lesson here that I'm trying to say, this is a lesson for life. I'm risking it physically in jiu-jitsu, but it's teaching me that sometimes you need to risk it in life in order to learn, and maybe you don't succeed, but you'll learn. And by not succeeding, so long as you're engaging still, you can learn. This is really about life. This is about learning that sometimes risk doesn't pay off by success, but through the failure, you can learn how to better utilize that information next time. And maybe the next time doesn't always equal success either, but you've gathered yet another piece of information to add. Because if you keep at it, even through your failures, you can learn and then overcome. I know I've talked about this before, that failure isn't final unless you give up. And usually what would make you give up is your ego. We lose more to our egos than we do to our failures. Because again, failures aren't final. We care more about what people think of us than we should. And we cherish their good opinion so that we don't want to risk maybe looking less in their eyes. When really people don't, this may sound cold, but people don't really care that much about what you do. Until it affects them in some way. But so your family, they care. Your friends, they care. But it's really narcissistic to think that everyone's looking at you and everyone sees every little failure that you have. It's not the case. And it may be the biggest thing going on in your world, but most people have no idea that anything's happening at all. So don't allow some kind of self-aggrandizing of your own failures to think that everyone thinks ill of you. That it's ignorant to think that everyone thinks anything. So humble yourself. Get back on the right track and keep pushing. It's very humbling to be choked out by a girl. And I can get all up in my feels and I can get all up in my ego and say, well, that's ridiculous, and I don't have to put up with this. And or whatever a guy will say to himself to make himself feel better that didn't really happen. If you feel like that shouldn't have been the outcome, then you failed by allowing that to be the outcome. Don't underestimate your opponents. That's probably what happened. That's what happened to me. Totally underestimated. Next thing you know, I got like a monkey on my back choking me out. Okay. No need to get upset about it. Lesson learned. Don't underestimate. Respect your opponent. And when you fail, look into why. Figure out how that happened so that you can ensure that it never happens again. Or at least it won't happen again that way. You may mess up another way, and then you fix that way and the other way, and you move on. Slowly. Better every single day. Now, I know this may be jiu-jitsu heavy, but again, this is where my life is kind of rotating right now. This is where my brain is occupying that space a whole lot. And again, this is not really about jiu-jitsu. This is how I'm learning about life and how this applies to your life just like it does to jiu-jitsu. There's going to be times it gets scary and you want to just not engage, but that doesn't lead you anywhere that you ultimately want to go. Sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit. Hallelujah. I think I'm going to leave right there. Guys, I'm so glad that you were here listening. I'm glad to be able to put out another podcast. I'm hoping that we can make this a regular process again. I've had to find all my equipment that's been pushed to various parts of our little house and knock the dust off and get things hooked back up. It's been so long, I'm like, am I hooking it up right? I don't even know anymore. But I'm glad to be back. I'm hoping that you're getting some good information out of this. I'm hoping more than just gathering good information, that I'm giving you things to think about and things that you can do. Because if you hear all this good information and you do absolutely nothing with it, then it's really no good whatsoever. I want you to be a better person today than you were yesterday. And it's pushing just a little bit harder. Just a little bit harder. Risking a little bit more. Learning the lessons and going back and risking again. Don't give up. Things are worth fighting for. The things in your life are worth fighting for. And it may be embarrassing at some point, but that doesn't mean you give up. That means you figure out why and make yourself better every day.